What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And tonight I am joined by the third juror of this season, I believe ninth placer, Rory. What is up, man? How are you? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Life post Ascendance has been very, very kind to me, so I'm very grateful for that. Very fortunate to be in the position that I am with everything. Uh, so yeah, like I mean, watching the season is kind of funny because like there's the moments that you're like reliving. So like was getting back into my feelings watching some of that stuff happen again. Like it was fresh in my mind. No, it's fine. It's like this was months ago. You've grown, you've moved on. So like it's been fun to rewatch and relive. It really has. Like it's been a very pleasant experience for me at least.
Good. Yeah. It's been fun watching you. I think you've been one of the characters that have been pretty fun to watch, I would say.
Good, because I mean I tried to I think I promised you pre-season that I was gonna make sure it was fun for me and hopefully it'd be fun for other people too. So like did I expect to be the emotional train wreck of the season? Absolutely not. Like I we'll get into it, but like I did not expect it to the level that I brought at all.
Yeah. Um, so obviously you played in season 8 online and you just missed the jury by I believe one spot.
Yep.
Now here you are and you made it to the final stages of the game here as far as you can go without being a finalist, right? As a juror. Um, how did it feel, number one, to make the jury? And then any differences between how the game is in person as opposed to online?
Oh my God. Well, for online, like I was playing Ascendance for a month and didn't make the jury. Like I was the most work put in with nothing for it at the end. Here was in the game for two and a half days. And I have a say in the winner. So like the time distribution does not seem fair, but it was so much harder in person. Like I have a lot more respect for live games and like because in with Big Brother, like it's easy to be like the coach on the couch and be like, oh, that was such a bad decision. Why did they do that? Da, 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 da. What I've lived it now, I've experienced it now. I have a lot more sympathy because like in my mind going in, it's like I'm gonna be Sharif Fields. I feel like I played this game more like Karishma, but I'm still not mad about it. The Survivor reference for people, but yeah, it is so much harder. Everything moves so quickly there. Which again I can get into, but like the whole thing of me actually being on the bottom all of day two, I was not cognizant of it. Like I knew like my positioning wasn't great after the Coliseum, but like I did not realize it was as bad as it was until we wrapped for the night. It's like, oh my God. Oh, I really am screwed here, huh?
Rory, you mentioned the night at the Coliseum. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your role in that. I know that in my notes here and watching the episode, you got a little bit called out there by Madison, kind of a light call out. So talk about that whole situation.
So yeah, I feel like I need to shed light on the situation because of selective memory, but you know what? It's fine because like the reality is I understand the situation and why things get worked. So it's just addressed in the episode. I'll talk about my role. Yes, they're in there and they're like hyping it up, talking. At this point, I'm aware that that vote in the morning is already Madison versus Emily. I feel like that's already kind of known. But I'm just in the room and they're talking. They're not. Usually Sarah's up in bed, Maddie's up in bed, Ozzy's in bed, and they're just like Emily this, Emily that, Emily that, and I'm like, I just had the worst round of my life, and I'm trying to like fix my positioning in the game socially because I'll touch on this really quick. I felt horrendous about myself after the third round when it was either going to be me or Erica. I wasn't aware CJ was an option or my vote would have gone there if there was actually if I'd realized that it was actually viable in people's minds. But point being, I felt so like disgusted with myself. I'm like, I came here to play a social game. And I basically the first round for me to play, I absolutely just crapped the bed for lack of a better term. So I was like, I need to fix this. I need to make up with this. So I'm making sure I'm trying to integrate socially. So I'm in the room talking with them. At this point, Sarah's already up in bed and they want to clarify something with CJ talking about Emily because of the whole who was the vote for CJ during that last round. So Sarah's like, Rory, can you go find CJ just so because like I'm already in bed, I don't want to come back down. And I'm like, sure, I don't need a target for not going to get somebody for someone. So the reason I leave the room is because Sarah asked me to find CJ. What happens is you then see me upstairs on that little patio area where they're all talking about Survivor. That's the first thing I do is I go outside up those stairs where the beanbag toss competition was. And I'm immediately like, have y'all seen CJ? And then Emily does the same thing, which I'm gonna call her out here. She does the same thing she did to Madison and Ozzy during their wine night of like, just like little question to egg it on and keep getting the information. It's like, well, why do you need to find CJ? What are they talking about? And I'm just like, okay, I literally just made an alliance with this person, and of the people left in this house, Emily is someone I trust. What can I say without absolutely tanking myself? In my mind, it took me 5 minutes to say it, but in reality, this was also 2:30 in the morning. It might have taken me less than 30 seconds, but it eventually came out that I said to her, they're downstairs and they're talking about you. What I wasn't aware of is then after that, I go into the kitchen. Rocky leaves that conversation, goes down the stairs and came up, goes in and says, hey, just so y'all know, don't say anything. Rory told Emily everything. So honest to God, the real props of the fight for game theory is Rocky. Like, genuinely, I give Rocky all the credit in the world for my game tanking, because after that, no one trusted me with any information. And you know what the best part was? I never found CJ. CJ was like in the speakeasy room, I believe, during this time, or he was outside looking for Bandit. But I like looked around the entire house for this man, could not find him. I'm walking back into the Coliseum to be like, I have no idea where it is. I have no idea where he is. And I walk back in, and Madison's like, hey there, Tattletale. And I'm like, I am confusion. How am I a Tattletale? And then Rocky's sitting right there, and like, I don't connect the dots in my brain either. That was Rocky. So I'm just like, I'm confused. How is it me? What did I do wrong? So like, I was lying and deflecting that like I told Emily, and the perception was that I told her everything. In reality, I did not tell Emily everything, but that was enough for socially me to just be tanked for the rest of the game.
It's kind of funny because Rocky is the one that kind of sells you out there, but Rocky ends up being a person that is you're pretty close with towards the end of your time in the game.
Yeah, I had I was trying to, like, play the social game in reality is like just trying to juggle relationships for me, and then some of those relationships may become alliances, they may not. Like, it was a lot of fun. Like, you even catch in the final episode that my final two was Kira. Like, in reality, my final two was Connor. Connor leaves round two, and also Connor and I have the like funny ability with each other that we can talk without saying a damn word. So like, they're sitting down for their round two elimination. He's just making eye contact with him like, you are not going home. Do not tell me that. It's like no words are being said, but we're just like looking at each other, and I'm like, they are not voting you out. And then they voted him out, and then I almost cried there. But Rocky was somebody I had a lot of faith with, just also because of my awareness with the community. Like I talked about with you, like Matthew Papa's been trying to get me to play this game since the second season. So like awareness of stuff. And I'm like, I knew from everybody sitting in that circle, it's like I knew Marcelo played, but Connor and Rocky were both all-stars. So like if anybody's gonna really have a better understanding of this game than them or AJ being on production, it's them. So it's like I want to make sure they're in my corner, because I think one of the biggest strengths I brought to the table was like my ability to read people, which I'm gonna pat myself on the back without giving any spoilers. And then yeah, I think my ability to just like perceive situation, and then also just like understand the game, because I knew for like my first captaincy, for example, I'm like, this is going to be a joint. They're not going to do a 3-person vulnerable vote. So it's like pick people to protect, and then you're stuck with CJ because you're captain 3.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned the creation of an alliance, and I've had fun talking about No Fear throughout the season. It kind of imploded, right? But it was a lot of fun to kind of speculate on, if you guys were going to stick together. Let me hear, your your side of No Fear, and and its creation and like throughout the game how it ended up being.
Yes. So going back, so like I kind of have to preface this with round 3 to a certain extent. At this point in the game, you see the one conversation where like no lie, like I am extremely grateful, and like I've already told production, I'm extremely grateful for my edit in round 3, because the reality is I spent most of that round hyperventilating in a room by myself because I was literally just so like overwhelmed in the situation. And I don't mind sharing that because of one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this in the first place, which I'll touch on later. Basically, the one when I was starting to come back to, I remember the conversation in the room with Erica and CJ's trying to get me to throw out a third name. And I'm like, I don't trust this right now. You're trying to use this against me. So I literally hugged Erica and said, I'm sorry, basically saying, yeah, I'm voting you out. So like, I I was not giving CJ any ammunition because I didn't trust him with it. So later that night, after we did the gauntlet, which of course I'm blanking on the names of challenges, so I would have been great in the final 3 comp. If I even made it there. But like after we ran the gauntlet and so after that comp, they basically, we're just relaxing because we're done for the day. CJ comes and grabs me and is like into the laundry room, and I'm like really confused because it's like, pretty sure you weren't on my side in this last vote, so what's going on? And I get pulled into this room, and Josh, Ali, and Emily are already in there. I look around the room, and I'm like, the only person who I actually trust on a game level is Emily, because Ali, I don't know what the hell's going through his head besides, being the quote unquote life of the party. And I screamed at Josh's interview with you because genuinely when Josh introduced himself to me night 1, I got immediate energy of like used car salesman. And his line with you, he literally quotes Brian Heidick. So I lost it when he said that, like preseason watching the stuff. I just didn't trust it immediately. So I like look around the room. You tried to get me out. I have no reason to trust you, and I don't get confirmation till later. I don't know what is even going through your head. I like you. So in my mind, I'm like, if this is becoming a thing, I am only working with this. Like in my mind, this is not an alliance. This is a voting block. And this is only a voting block as long as Emily is in the game. So they make no fear. And Josh brings up the good point, which is what I wanted to do in the first place of like, if you name it, people care. Or are going to care about it more. And I'm like, he's absolutely right. So I'm like, I'm going to be the one to name it so it looks like I give a shit. And in reality, it's like, no, I'm working with Emily. And if that by extension is no fear, cool. But I called it no fear because I was not afraid of any of them in the game. And I made up the excuse of like, oh, I like wrestling and da 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 and da 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 and Pentagon Jr., which shout out Pentagon Jr., genuinely my favorite wrestler in the world. But
so that was
so I was like, it's called No Fear because I really. Oh,
no worries. So that was a real play on like something from wrestling that you enjoyed or
oh yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah, I basically just immediately riffed it to make it look like, oh, this is something I really care about. Like injecting my genuine emotion into the name of the alliance of like, yes, this is great. And in reality, I'm like, no, I don't trust any of you. So yeah, that's what was going on there.
Awesome. Well, it was fun to watch No Fear be created, and it didn't really work out too well. A lot of people went against each other in that, but Rory, I wanted to ask you, you had a couple powers in the game, and at one point you were flaunting it on your chest at an elimination before an elimination. There it is right there. Oh, you ended up actually being able to take it home with you. That's awesome. So speaking of the reveal vote that you have here,
Yeah.
no, let's first start with the half pendant, right?
Yeah.
Emily goes out with the half pendant, and I believe you were aware that she had it at that point of her leaving. No, you did not.
So yeah, this is the only other thing to touch on with No Fear. I was the only one in the group not aware of the Ascendance advantage.
Okay.
And me and Emily like discussed this post season because I don't remember. I asked her, during the round of hierarchy, do you have a pendant? Because it's like, I have a half. I know you're probably leaving. I will give it to you. And she says no. She says no because we were in a room full of people. I thought it was just us, which is the only reason in my mind I would have asked her. But like I would have fully given her the pendant if she had said yes in that round. And but she said no. So I'm like, okay, so then that's that. I gotta move on.
Okay. Okay. So wait, at that point she did have the half pendant of power, but you were unaware of it.
Correct. She found the half pendant during that vote, and I asked her during that vote if she had it. Or if she had a pendant, which technically she wasn't lying to me because I basically phrased the question as, do you have a full pendant? And like,
right.
She didn't. Did the same thing with Billy, and he lied to me too. And look how that worked out for him.
We will get to that.
Oh,
The other question I have for you is the reveal vote that you have here that you ended up taking as a souvenir. You said that you were going to do it. It exchanged a lot of hands this season. We see you give it to Kira at one point. I believe she gives it back to you, and then it goes between you and Josh at one point. So talk about the use of that power. Well, not being used, but traditionally, but being used to kind of garner trust with one people.
that's exactly what it was for in my mind, because like when I found it and I saw what it was, I'm like, in the moment during the game, I'm like, I don't see a way I can weaponize this besides as a tool for trust. So like telling people that I found it with AJ and Kira after running laps. Like found it after that, and we were like, yes. And I was like, yes, like this is us, okay? Like this is for us. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm never playing this, but look, I found a power and I said I wanted to, and I did it already. So fantastic. But for me, it was more like this is a tool of trust, of like establishing like, hey, like this means something to me. So like I gave it to Kira because like in my mind at that point, I told her that I wanted to go to the end with her after Connor left. And then like I just slipped it in her pocket. I'm like, if I really am going here, because I did not believe in my heart of hearts that I was gonna stay over Erica, I'm like, here, just take it. I don't want to expose you in front of everybody because you also already know that I have it. But also during that round, I showed it to Rocky while we were waiting. I showed Rocky when we were waiting to go for that challenge. And then Kira gave it back to me during one of the down nights, but I was like in no rush to get it back. So I'm like, I don't see a reason to use it. And then the reason I gave it to Josh was in my mind, I was like, I don't feel comfortable in this vote against Ali because I'm like, the only person I feel like will actually vote with me is Rocky. I don't have confirmation about Josh. I don't have confirmation about Ozzy. I don't have confirmation about Sarah. I obviously don't have Ali. Ali's not going to vote for himself. So in my mind, even though like post thought it was the dumbest thing I could have done, in my mind I was like, if I give this to Josh, I'm at least guaranteed a tie, and then he just revote me out. But then like it makes me kind of look like a schmuck for giving it to him and then him still voting me out anyway. But I did not have the faith in Sarah and Ozzy that they were going to vote to keep me, so I didn't have a problem give it to him. And then like in the last minute of this last round, I was like, can I just have it back, because I'm like, I'm not going to use it. And I just like, this is the one thing that I feel like I have. And then I had half of mine once he did give it back to me to immediately play it and expose the Kira vote. And then I was like, it's not worth it. I'm going home anyway. Like, let the game unfold the way it's going to unfold anyway, because at the end of the day, only one person's going to win. And so this is 7 other people's mistake letting me go here, hypothetically. So I'm like, let them learn.
Let them learn. Rory, there was no thought into playing that power at all throughout the season.
No,
No.
absolutely not. Because in my mind, every vote was clear cut and dry. The only inclination the only time I wanted to play it was when Kira was blindsided. And at that time, I didn't have possession of it. So I couldn't immediately stand up and play it because it's in Josh's pocket. So I almost did it when Josh gave it back to me. And I'm like, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth prolonging my life for 5 minutes in this game. I'm like, at this point, as I said, like I'm burnout. I'm out of gas. I literally have downed 2 energy drinks this morning and it's doing nothing. My legs weigh 4 times more than they normally do. Like physically, mentally, emotionally, I'm done. I need to be done. If I keep going, it's not going to be good for anybody. Like, let me go.
All right. So the split vote between Sarah and Billy, let's get into it. You tried saving Billy, you never switched your vote off of him. You tried to save him in the revote as well. Run me through that vote from your perspective.
Yeah, I absolutely want to run through this because it looks like from the episode, it looks like I'm immediately just like on Billy's side, and like that's why I wanted to talk through this anyway. So with the situation of the two, when it became Sarah or Billy, I'm like, I really would prefer Billy to stay, but in my mind, again, just because of my position in the game, I wasn't aware of how hard Sarah was dogging me on a game level. In my mind, I was like, I'm leaving the door open to every single person because the minute you close the door is that could be the difference between staying and going. So I always tried to leave the door open for every person, which is why I went out of my way to make sure Sarah like really stayed the following round because I'm like, I'm willing to do whatever, whenever,
Yeah.
to like further myself if I feel like it's the right thing. Ironically, the conversation Sarah had with me that round is what made me decide to vote her out because I'm like, if this is how you're going to talk to me when like if we're going to work together and you're like accusatory of like, well, you're going to talk to the people. I'm like, what everybody else is doing, sweetie. Like what do you expect me to do? I'm sorry, don't me just be like yes and lie to you? Like no, I'm going to be a little bit more straight up than that. But I was like, I'd rather Billy stay just because I feel like he will go before me and I see him more in the picture of my end game than Sarah. So I was like, cool. When it got to the vote itself, I already had confirmation before we even voted that Marcelo and Ali would not go to Rocks, and that if it tied, they were going to flip. So I knew no matter what, as soon as I was hoping for a tie because I wanted cards to be shown. But as soon as it tied, I knew Billy was gone. Whether he had a pendant or not, he was gone. So yeah, I was like, Sarah's staying. I think for myself, it looks worse if I just like flip on somebody and I'm saying to everybody, my word in this game actually means something to me. And then I just like flip my vote. I'm like, that's a reason to like target somebody and put somebody on the bottom in my mind. If like you're literally going against everything you're saying that you're about.
Right. Was there any plea or did you have any thought of trying to get that like once you guys were aware that he has a pendant, he's being voted out, to try to get that pendant from him, or was it just like read the room? Nah, it's not gonna work.
No, it's not worth it. And then like I think like in my mind too, it's like in that moment, if you've earned it with his trust with him, then he's gonna give it to you anyway. So like again, I didn't know he had it. Because he joked about it in one of his confessionals the episode prior. Is like, I'm glad you told me about yours. I'm not telling you mine. But yeah, it was like, yeah, if you're gonna give it to me, cool. I don't think I'm in a great spot anyway, but like, I have no expectations. I'm like, I'm working with you, Billy, because you're Billy. I wasn't working with you because of a pendant. So like,
Right.
I didn't care if I had gotten it or if I didn't get it.
Yeah. So the next round here, you end up winning captain again. Um, and you make it your goal to go get Josh out of the game.
Yep.
And obviously it doesn't work out because that pendant gets played on him, and an ally of yours, AJ, gets voted out, gets, one voted out of the game. So how deflating was that for you? You kind of set it up real well. You had the votes there too. It just didn't pan out.
For me, that round, again, not fully aware of my position in the game. That round for me was all about proof of delivery in the sense of it. I wanted to prove I'm like, I've got your of the people who are voting, no matter which team was going, because like I took those moments. I'm like, I built those teams the way I needed to. I was convinced that somebody was going to play that Madison had given the power off and somebody was going to play. I'm like, oh, they're actually letting me pick both of these teams. Party. I'm going to do whatever I want. Be mad about it. So I was like, no matter which outcome it is, which team won, like I have a plan. I'm firing and I'm going for it. So with that point, like I had the feeling about Josh, but I didn't have any confirmation until like, he basically blew Billy up during the elimination vote. And I'm like, okay, this is the best chance I feel like I'm going to have to get Josh out, because in my mind, Josh is the person that stands between me and getting to the end game. So I was like, I need to take the shot now that I have it. And so like prove to Sarah at this point, like what's happened has happened. Like we need each other now. And then Taylor, Rocky, and then for like Taylor, for Rocky, and for who else was on that team? Of course, I'm blanking on it. But for the other people on the team, it's like, yeah, AJ, of course, the one who goes home. But I'm like, for the other people, it's like, I'm working with you. This is the proof that I'm going to save you and that I'm ready to go to the end of this game with you. And then for Josh, it's like, I'm going to send him home. And then for Sarah, it's like, this is proof that we can move past what has gone down. And CJ proved the point that for me in Ascendance that I am a cursed captain. Whenever I win captain, somebody I'm working with goes home. Online, in person, doesn't matter. I am the cursed captain of Ascendance.
Yeah, it did not shake out well, but you did get a little saving grace with AJ battling back into the game. Obviously, that was a big moment because you had the a big reaction to him coming back in the game. Was that surprising to you that he came back?
Not really because of track record up to this point. Like he was the loudest person in the room about the fact that he hadn't been vulnerable yet. And I'm like, stop saying it. I trust you. Other people are gonna do bad things with this, AJ. Stop saying it. But like I was ecstatic because like in that downtime, I think that was part of what was playing into my mindset at the time. I'm like, oh my God, I just cost AJ this game. Because I'm like, I'm the one who set up this team. I'm the one who rallied for Josh to go. And then like CJ did all this, which I found out after that vote too, that the snake speech that CJ gives was directed at me. Because
Okay.
we had a conversation about that. That was a big chunk of the downtime. And that's why like you see me when I go with the power. I'm like, because I'm a snake, I'm two-faced and lying to everybody. I'm like because this is all the things that CJ said to me in the downtime of like this is you, and I'm like, okay, this is hyperbole but cool, whatever, don't care. Like because I'm like cool, if this is how people feel, then this is how people feel. But seeing AJ walk back in, I was like, thank God, because I felt like I was the reason that he went home. Like, he did not deserve to go home because like he will do better than I ever will in the situation. It's like if I can't win, I want somebody I'm working with to take it home. So like right. In my mind, I was like, yeah, I want him back.
So he comes back in the game, and then we have this double, and obviously you are in a little bit of hot water here. It's between yourself and Ali, and you end up receiving 2 votes. You mentioned earlier that you felt like you could be the one going home here. So you were uneasy, you said, about a couple people that were voting at this elimination.
Oh yeah. At this point in the game too, I feel solid with less than half the cast. And so like I immediately vocalized to Rocky because Rocky was the only person on that team that I really trusted at this point, that I'm like, he built this team for me or Josh, so to go, which I actually think the saving grace is Josh winning and then Josh trying to get Rocky out. Because I think if it was more clear cut of me against Josh in that vote, then I'm the first member of the jury. Because Josh did what he did is the reason that I survived that vote. And my joke answer that I may or may not have said you preseason, you can't be blindsided when you always think you're going home. I mean, people kind of got on me a bit, like once I got to the vote out Villa, that like how emotional I was playing the game, and like whenever I was vulnerable, like how much of a problem it was to try to work with me, because like they were giving me the confirmation of like, you're good, and like me not believing it. In my mind, just saying, oh, like literally this is the reaction of like walking past me like, oh, Rory, you're good. Huh? Like, no, like that is the biggest red flag, like in my mind, but like that is the level of confirmation you get to being safe during this game. So like I didn't believe it because I didn't have experience of a live game to know like that is literally the confirmation you get. So I never believed it. But on top of this, what I will say in terms of trusting my gut over every other person, I will say I was vulnerable 4 times in this game. I felt unsafe 3 times in this game. And those 3 times were the times I got votes. The only elimination that I felt safe at was Hierarchy when Emily left. That was the only round that I was vulnerable this season, and I did not get votes cast my way. So, like, people were like, oh, you were emotional and overreacting. I always think you were going. I thought I was going because y'all were throwing votes my way and talking about sending me home. I have a reason to be upset.
Do you think that I mean, I think there's truths to both
Oh
what
yeah.
people are criticizing you of and also to what you're saying now. Do you think that maybe um and I don't know because I've never played a live game, I've just watched the seasons, but do you think that part of it in your head was you know, obviously emotions, but kind of speaking it into existence like you know I'm vulnerable here, I know I could be the one, like you physically like actually saying that could have like put you in that headspace, or maybe that's a thought.
Um yeah, I trusted my gut over anything else and like just like knee jerk trying to do the calculation as quick as possible because I'm not like the fastest make a decision because I'm literally trying to do the combinations in my head. So like that's why round two I was like, Ozzy, don't pick me. There's gonna be one left over. I'd rather get Michael Davis. Don't pick me. like I was like I did not feel comfortable with that breakdown and I vocalized that. I mean, like, I was like, I don't feel comfortable. Do you actually have my back? And that's like the tone that I was trying to go for. Obviously, I don't think it was perceived that way because I also got quite a shocking number of, oh, you're really like this from some of the players postseason. Like, I think they thought that I was like fronting a personality for the game. I was like, no, I was Rory Sargalis the entire way through this game, emotional flaws and all. And just to touch on that, that is like one of the biggest reasons that I have wanted to do stuff like this. For one, like obviously it's a dream. I've wanted to do this since I was 13. But in reality, just because of the events of my life, of like I walk with my chest puffed out, not because I'm arrogant, but because I lead with my heart and I'm not apologetic about it. Um, because of like, harassment, bullying, whatever you want to call it, through all of my formative years, I just basically shut down as a person. And I was like, not gonna give anybody the satisfaction of like them knowing that my heart's on my sleeve, so I'm not gonna be emotional. And I've kind of worked towards realizing that's an okay thing and working through mental health issues, which is another one of the big reasons I did this. Like, I think it's funny to me that people are like, it's emotional. And I'm like, that makes me human. So I did not play a good game at Ascendance, but I played a human game. Do you have a problem with me playing a human game? That's kind of how I just phrase it in my mind. I'm like, I forgive myself because yeah, I know I made mistakes, but that's what makes me human. And I would not have done what I did if I wasn't human. Everybody would not be doing what they're doing if they weren't human. Nobody in that house is a robot. Despite me doing a Julie Chen impression, nobody in that house is a robot. We're
There's some
human. We're
close
going to
ones.
make
There's some
mistakes. We're going to have emotional reactions. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, Rory. I agree. I 100% agree with what you're saying. But let's talk about the ultimate elimination here for you. You getting sent to the jury here, the third juror. Um, did you mentioned it, I think, in the episode in a confessional, you mentioned it here. You also mentioned chugging a couple energy drinks that to no avail. Did you just run out of gas here?
Completely like that's what was funny to me is you guys on the episode recap were like Rory needs to just take Rocky's Red Bull. Little did y'all know
We did.
during my pit stop on the way there, I literally brought like a 3 gallon cooler with me, or like bag, and like I had that shit stocked full of energy drinks because I told you caffeine's gonna be my friend. Caffeine was the last thing to turn its back on me in that house. It did nothing for me but give me heart palpitations during that final 11
Oh, jeez.
challenge.
Oh, jeez.
My heart was going faster trying to hold that tennis ball on a stick than it was running laps. So like, I knew I was just like out in my mind. I know I'm out of gas. Just like emotionally, I was done after round three, and then just mentally, and then physically, like it was just like my body was shutting down. It was for my It was for the betterment of my health. As you can hear, you can even hear in my confessionals that my voice is going. Like, I don't have a voice for finale. It's fun. There's a spoiler for people, but no. I mean, like, in
We look
reality, this
forward to
game,
it.
I put it, this is my other thing too, is I'm like, be like, oh, I should have done this, should have this. No, I literally put my everything into this game. My body was physically shutting down on day 3. Like, God knows if I would have even been able to get up had I made it to the last day of the game.
Well, Rory, your journey's not over here in Ascendance just yet. You know, obviously you are part of the jury. How obviously got a total line of spoilers, but what are you looking for? What were you looking for at the time of your elimination in a winner at that point? What were you trying to suss out?
Yes. So I also like hadn't been on a jury in a while, so it's kind of like re-getting back into that mindset for myself. But for me, when I'm a juror, I'm like, okay, I have my personal experience of how people handled me on a game level, how I feel about them on a personal level, what they've physically done in the game. I'm like, okay, I have these judgments to base off. The thing that I'm more interested about at this point is like, what are the perceptions of the other jurors? Like, who was high value for like Ali? Who was high value for Kira? And I'm telling you, at this point, Kira was not wanting to talk about anything. So like, okay, Ali, how do you feel? How do you feel about this? So like, that was great too. During the pendant in the treasure chest comp, Ali and I are oblivious because we are downstairs. I'm trying to get information out of Ali, and I'm like, by the time I go upstairs, Kira's coming down. It's like, I have a pendant. I'm like, what? So like, literally, I spend the downtime before our next friend joins us in the jury of just talking with Ali, like, how do you feel about people in the game? Like, you know, just like what are you, how do you feel about tiering, ranking, all that kind of stuff? And that doesn't have any spoilers to do because I'm like in my mind, I'm like, realistically, I played this game with a bunch of badasses. Like, I think the reason is like how social this group is. I am not a social person. I am very much an introvert. I very much don't enjoy talking to people. I very much kind of like, I'm gonna do my thing on my own time. So like, that's part of what drained me a lot too, is I'm like, I have to be social. I have to get up and actually talk to people about this vote. God damn it. So like, yeah, it was a lot. And I'm extremely proud of this final 8. And you know, I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, I'm happy to like hear it out and happy to be able to have a say in what happens at the end. Like, that's what means the world to me more than anything, because I did not see myself there. I did not see myself in the final 2, so I'm like, let me just get to the jury, which is why I cried after winning Find It. Bingo. I'm like, oh, the jury, even though like really it was the second captain win in a row that got me to jury. We don't have to talk about that, but it's just like, yeah, it's very much the case of like, I'm happy that I have a say now.
Awesome. Yeah. And you know, you did the thing, you got there. I was super happy to see you get the jury spot after the grueling online season just coming up short. But Rory, before we conclude this exit interview, I want to ask you, what was your favorite part of the entire experience? Could be about the game, could it be about shenanigans afterwards?
Oh my God. There's just like, this is the thing, is like, this really was the experience of a lifetime, because like when I wasn't in my head is like the most fun that I've had, which is why I'm like telling people join the Patreon, because genuinely all of my
Yes,
favorite moments are on that Patreon.
there's some good ones.
Like I guess the one I'll spoil is night 1 when we're starting. I'm like starting my introduction because I'm first, and then Wes goes, "I'm not ready yet," and I'm like, "Why did you tell me to go then?" And I'm just like, it was oh my God, I just absolutely, I mean, that also kind of ties into my one regret though, in the sense of like, I wish I had gotten out of my head more and just like lived the experience, because I was so in my head like, oh, I have to do well, duh. It's just like, I had like, this was a fucking dream, and I'm forever going to be grateful to Ascendance because they let me live out something that I never thought was actually going to happen for me. And so just like having those like genuine moments once the game was over, because that also like really told people that like, what this meant and like how real this was for me. Like that conversation Keaton talked about. I had a conversation like a really deep heart to heart with Billy, Erica, Connor. Like, oh man, it's just like I would not trade this experience for the world. I even had this conversation with my mom about it too. She was like, "You just being able to go there is winning," and it took me so long to see that. But yeah, I mean, just like the reality is, I would not trade this experience for anything. Like seriously, if you have your reservations, fucking do it.
Yeah, apply. Rory, I had so much fun watching you this season. All the ups and the downs. I think there were more ups for sure than downs. And obviously you are not done with Ascendance just yet in terms of the episodes. So I look forward to seeing your decision and how you get to that decision. But um I appreciate you taking the time to do the exit interview, and hopefully down the road we could talk about Ascendance later.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, like really, I have such a soft spot for anything original format, and I really think, and that's what I'll say too, is Ascendant is genuinely the hardest game I've ever played. So the fact that I can say I made the top half of a cast and I've gotten like relatively deep playing it twice, I'm like, that also just proves like I'm capable as a human being. And this really was a big turning point in my life of like really showing myself that I can do what I set my mind to, and I've been able to do that after.